supporters, doubters, people questioning like, hey, do you really want to dive into real estate, coming back to, an old city, but a new city, right? In that
Right.
sense.
Right.
Can you kind of dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, my number one supporter has always been Michael. He's like, babe, you're great at this. Like, you're a natural at this. It doesn't feel you enjoy, like, I enjoy what I do. I
Yeah.
never wake up like dreading anything. I enjoy connecting people with with what they want and like helping them get to that end goal. And so he has always just been a huge cheerleader and just force in my corner, and also taking a brunt of like looking after our kids and making sure that I can go and do what I need to do while, we're also in the midst of a massive renovation and whatnot. So him, definitely. Kreider has always been just in my corner 1,000%. He's a great leader. He leads by example, and I've been around a lot of terrible leadership in my life, especially with
Yeah.
like military and corporate and, contracting, et cetera. And good leaders are something that's hard to teach. Leadership is one of those things that you either have it or you don't. And you can learn to be a better leader, but I think that being a leader in general is just an innate quality. You either have it or you
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
And he has it, and I would follow him anywhere. I'm buying what he's selling, and that's what, he looks out for me and I look out for him. And it was just him and I for quite a while. And then once we've been bringing on other agents underneath us, we're just really cognizant of the culture that we're creating, where it's not like a cutthroat competitive. It's more just like, if we all work together, we all eat better, right? Like,
Yeah.
we can all kind
Yeah.
of pull each other up. So
The-
he had a lot
yeah.
of success by himself, but now he's really just sharing that wealth with us as far as like his knowledge, and I'm a quick
Yeah.
study. So
I,
that's been like my biggest supporters. But I mean, the doubters, especially people that don't understand entrepreneurial like mindsets, and that
mm,
don't quite understand like the risk versus reward, and the risk
yeah.
is a little too scary for them to make that jump. Even within my own family, it's like,
Yeah.
especially those when we first moved back and we're trying to figure out, working with Children's Hospital to get diagnoses for our oldest. And, we're in a new city for our family unit. We have
Yeah.
a 1-year-old, and, my husband's getting himself situated in a new space, and
Right.
to not be working really hard but not be making any money. And it's like, is it worth it? Maybe you should just go get a part-time job, or maybe you should just go do this. And those doubts start to creep into your head too, where it's like, shit, maybe I should. Maybe I,
Well, yeah, I wanted to ask you because, you mentioned you shadowed for 6 months,
Mhm,
right? Like you were wherever Jeff was at, that's where you were at,
mhm.
right? And I feel that our industry, I probably shouldn't make large assumptions, but I'm
Right.
going to because
In
I've
our
I've been
experience.
I've been in here for 12 years and I've
Yeah.
seen plenty of agents come and go, and
Yep.
I feel that ego sometimes gets in the way of them doing the tedious work, the
Uh-huh.
work that has no reward. Because I was the same way. I had a mentor.
Yeah.
Ryan was your Jeff, right?
Mhm.
And I tell people that join our team, the agents that have the fastest success, the most success, they're in the office, they're volunteering for showings, they're volunteering to do the final walkthrough, they're volunteering to drop the signs and lock boxes. You know, what specifically though did you know that you had to shadow for 6 months? Like, or did Jeff just say, "Hey, come and shadow me for 6 months"? Like most agents think like they skip that part, and I think
Yeah, and
skipping
I
that
think
part is the part that really slows them down and causes more of the failure than the success.
well, it's like you gotta build a foundation before you put up walls, right? If you don't have
Yeah,
footers, your walls are gonna fall down. So, making sure that I had a solid foundation in understanding things and making sure, like, I have a solid construction background. I know enough to be dangerous as far as like walking through spaces. And, you know, like I said, my husband does contracting work. My brother, and he did foundation repair for a while. My brother-in-law owns a waterproofing and exterior drainage company. Like, you know, I'm super familiar with the ins and outs. It's not just like, oh, look at this paint color. It's, hey, this is structural. This is not structural. I know this is ugly, but like, let's reimagine this. I mean, that's never been an issue for me. But knowing like the paperwork ins and outs, because, you know, like when you get your license, it's like, hey, congratulations. And there's no like, this is how to take a transaction from start to finish. You need someone to teach you that. So, I mean, I volunteered. I told Jeff, I was like, I want to learn as much as I can. Like, send me to showings. I will take them through showings. And he had confidence in me because he knows that I'm not just some like dope who doesn't know anything about construction. Right. And like, he has an electrical background. He does a bunch of flips and everything. And so we think very similarly, and especially like walking through spaces like, hey, yeah, there's a crack in the basement wall, but we can fix this. It's not, we don't need to, this is not a $30,000 like big box, like waterproof basement. You know, I'm not going to throw out business names, but we all know who we're talking about. You know, get a few steel beams down here and we'll be good to go. But, you know, walking through and being able to be factual and give solid sound advice without fear mongering or without like the fluff. So I just volunteered. I was like, listen, like, I want to learn. You are where I want to be. So I never want to be the big fish in a small pond. I want there to always be bigger fish in front of me, because otherwise there's nothing for me to chase. And that's how I learn best. I learn by watching and I learn by doing. And I knew that I wasn't going to learn by doing on my own. So, and I also didn't want to be that agent that, you know, is on the other side of the table that you're like, man, they are green. Like, they don't know what they're doing. I wanted to go into it with some confidence, and I knew that I would only get that confidence by doing it. So I told Jeff, I'm like, I want to learn. Like, I want to do these showings for you. Let me write the contracts. Let me do it so I can figure it out. And I asked him like a bazillion questions, and he never once made me feel any type of way for asking questions. He encouraged it. And then I got my first, actually one of my sisters was my first deal. And, you know, working with family is good and also not so great sometimes, but
it's hard.
It's hard because there's that professional line that's hard to enforce. And even later afterwards, she was just like, you were so right. Like, I was so stressed out about like, you know, $1,000, and I was freaking out. And you just kept saying like, big picture, let's keep our mind on the big picture here. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't like a miracle, like something that was written out like, oh, it has to be 6 months. That's just how it shook out. And I got my first deal 5.5, 6 months after I started, and I did it. And I asked Jeff a bunch of questions throughout that whole transaction to make sure I was doing things the right way. And then I just made little goals for myself. You know, I want to close at least one a month for the rest of this year. And I beat that. For the next year, I wanted to double it, and I tripled it. So I've been able to keep building, and it's all just felt very organic and not super, nothing's been forced, and nothing feels, it all feels very genuine and very authentic. And I don't feel like I have to pretend to be somebody that I'm not.